Hi there, thanks for being here. I'm featuring Unity stamps today and sharing a mixed media coloring technique that I think you'll love for this cutie. So let's jump in and get started assembling this card. I'm going to start out by stenciling my background first. I have some Hammermill smooth cardstock and then a stencil that I had in my stash. It has this hexagon-like pattern, which I thought would go really well with the turtle shell, kind of mimics that pattern. I'm just going to tape that down. I am using a mixed media mat because I'll be using that for my coloring technique, but it's not absolutely necessary. I grabbed two colors of Gina K ink. This is Wild Dandelion, and then I'll be using Turquoise Sea. I'm starting out with the yellow first, just kind of doing a gradient type pattern. So it'll be like stripes, but in a blobby type of way. And then I grab Turquoise Sea and I'm going to overlap that ink blending. So the turquoise kind of overlaps on top of the yellow, and that creates a lime greeny type color. So it looks like turtleish colors. So we have a pretty turquoise, a pretty green, and a pretty yellow. And that blended beautifully. Just going to set that aside for right now. I'm going to grab that yellow ink and smush it down onto my mat, add a bit of water, and then I'm going to run my fingers through it. This kind of beads it up, so when I ink smush into it, I get pretty good dots. I'm not pressing very hard. I want those kind of splotchy dots. I wipe that away with a towel, and then I'm going to add some of that turquoise sea, a little bit of water, and then do the same thing. Run my fingers through it and then tap on that color on top of the yellow. I'm going to add back in a little bit of that yellow because I want the green to kind of mix in between that we got from our ink blended background. So I did the same technique, added a little bit of water, ran my fingers through it. And I'm going to tap a little bit harder just to kind of fill in those spots a little bit more. I let this dry for a little bit and then I grab my Copic color chart so I could pick some colors that match my splotches. I don't show this a lot, but I do pull my chart out every time so I can match my colors to my project. I'm going to use Y02 and just start to fill in a little bit of the turtle. I'm not adding a lot of color. I want to be able to see those ink splotches underneath. But I do want to give the turtle a bit of dimension and to define the little areas. So we have a little bit of shading and to kind of pull out those colors a little bit more. So I did a little bit of YG03 and then coming in with YG13. The tiniest bit, I don't want a lot, but I do want to bring in that teal color, and that's almost like my shade color. So I'm adding just the tiniest little bit so we can get some definition in our little guy. And I'm following the shade lines of the stamp and where the shadow will be. And once I was done coloring, I die cut him with a scallop circle, and I'm just going to leave that in place as I add a little bit of ink blending. I'm only using the color that's left over on my brush and doing just a light amount around the edge of that die. And that's going to frame him, and it also will help him pop against that stencil background. He was getting a little lost of the white die cut against the white cardstock, so I thought the ink blending will help him pop a little bit. So cute! He could almost be like a little sea turtle. So let's start assembling. I've covered my card front with some cardstock from scrapbook.com. I'm just going to pop up my stenciled background and then pop up my turtle on the side here. I like how the white kind of helps him pop against that stenciled background. And then I'm going to add my sentiment just off to the side with some more foam tape. I did need to add a little bit on the one side because it wasn't level, so I just kind of doubled up on the side that's next to the die cut. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of white gel pen to his scales and to his shell just to kind of help that pop a little bit more. And then finally, I masked off my sentiment and my turtle, and I added some white paint splatters. And here is the final card. I just love how all that color pops with the stenciled background and then the mixed media technique that we use for that darling turtle. As always, supplies are listed in the description of this video and on my blog at dahlhouse-designs.com. I'd love it if you left a comment and subscribed. It truly makes my day to read each and every one. Thanks so much for crafting with me, and I'll see you again soon for another video. Bye.